Namaskar and good morning. I am Dr. Kumar Shantanu from Department of Botany, Deshbandhu College. Welcome to Gurukul Lectures. Till now, in our previous lectures, we have seen the economic importance of mosses, and also we have discussed some of the ecological significance of mosses. We shall continue our discussion of the ecological significance of mosses. In ecology, the mosses play a very crucial role. Their ability to retain moisture and their ability to insulate temperature makes them a very good agent for any succession event. When mosses are those genera or species which are pioneer to any of the succession event on a bare land or on a barren rock, these are the genera which grow for the first time, and they provide the essential formation of soil, and on those soil contained with nutrients, other species of plants germinate and grow. We shall continue this discussion and move on to the significance of mosses in recycling of nutrients. Bryophytes release nutrients by leaching and decomposition. Such nutrients are made available to other organisms. As symbionts with cyanobacteria, they help fix atmospheric nitrogen. For example, feather moss Pleurozium schreiberi with nostoc as symbiont can fix about 1/3 to 1/2 of 3 kg of atmospheric nitrogen fixed per hectare in boreal forests. So, such a significant amount of nitrogen is being contributed by the moss carpet. A tree biomass represents many years of growth and thus prevent recycling of minerals for years. In contrast, rapidly growing and decomposing biomass of bryophytes recycle minerals in the ecosystem relatively much faster. Bryophytes contribute substantially to global biomass and thus help recycle of carbon and other nutrients through growth and decomposition. Mosses also act as carbon sinks. Moss photosynthesis can represent up to 50% of total photosynthesis in swampy spruce forests. A large portion of carbon fixed long term, for example, sphagnum. Sphagnum can fix up to 90% of the total vegetation. Since in past land where almost 90% of ground cover is sphagnum, it is estimated that in past millennium a very significant quantity of total carbon has been accumulated in organic deposits of peatland. Bryophytes are generally poikilohydric, means they are able to dry out. Poikilohydric organisms are those which can have a water balance maintained at very ease. They become dormant under dry conditions and can resume physiological activity upon remoistening. They possess very high water holding capacity, as much as almost 1500% of their dry weights. In tropical and temperate forests with epiphytes, the bryophytes may collectively retain 150,000 kilogram of water per hectare. As epiphytes, bryophytes intercept considerable amount of rainfall and thus influence water budget of a watershed region. When we talk about the water budget of a watershed region, the ability of these bryophytes, which are mostly epiphytes, to retain, to absorb large amount of water helps in providing the moisture of their hosts. Bryophytes are often being used as indicators of mineral deposits. Some mosses are restricted to the soil rich in a particular metal. The metal often gets accumulated in plants. So we can use such mosses for extraction of those metals as well. By studying the distribution of such plants or analyzing their metal contents, it is very well possible to discover new minerals in such deposits. These techniques, which use bryophytes or any other plant to find out the metal content of or the mineral content of the soil, are called as geobotanical prospecting. So bryophytes can be very extensively used for geobotanical prospecting. For example, in Almora, Nainital and Pithoragarh districts in the Kumaon region of northwestern Himalayan, various mineral rich substrates have been recognized. Each mineralized area has a characteristic bryoflora of its own. The distinction is so pronounced that the bryoflora provides an idea of precise nature of the underlying substrates. Many a times we have used such information in the field of mining. For example, granite and mica can be detected by uses of a bryophyte belonging to order Grimiales. The bryophytes which belong to order Grimiales are the invaders and sole colonizers of smooth, polished surfaces of mica rocks, granites and other rocks. Hard granite surfaces are always colonized by Grimia species and Rhacometrium himalayanum. The colonization is so sharply delimited that one can predict the substrate by merely studying the moss. Dolomite rocks are characteristic feature of Himalayan geology. The substrates are calcium rich, and mosses growing on these substrates have a remarkable capacity to absorb and accumulate different amount of calcium from the substrate. The mosses which are always present on such sites are Hyophila involuta and Tortilla tortuosa. So by seeing the presence of these two species, that is Hyophila involuta and Tortilla tortuosa, we can to a very good extent predict the mineral content of a substratum. One of the largest deposits of magnesite is found in Kumaon region in India, and all these sites are very well covered by different specific moss species. The large magnesite deposits present a strikingly barren appearance, and the only species of moss growing on these sites is Hypnostylium recurvirostrum. Some species of mosses serve as indicators of high copper concentration in the substrate and are known as copper mosses. The copper concentration tolerated by the copper moss is lethal for other plants, and thus bryophytes have no competition on such sites. Such sites cannot afford any other type of vegetation, because at such higher concentration of copper the growth will be affected of other species, and on such substratum copper mosses could grow and they could accumulate those copper minerals. One such important copper moss is Melicopharea elongata. Melicopharea elongata and Scopophila cataracti can serve as indicator of copper. The occurrence of Phaneria is associated with the availability of potash, especially in areas which are devastated by fire. Some bryophytes grow only on strongly acidic, highly soluble, iron-rich limnolithic substrates. Iron is readily available on such substrates. These substrates have a pH as low as 2.9 to 4.1. So their ability to grow on such low pH soil makes them suitable for such substratum where other plants would find it difficult, and gradually they lower down the pH of such substratum and they pave the path for the growth of other higher plants. Polytrichum and Rhacometrium is a reliable indicator of acidic conditions, whereas in contrast the mosses Ditrichum flexicol, Phaneria species and Incapsulata streptocarpa are indicators of basic pH conditions. Gypsum containing areas are very alkaline to various degrees, and sometimes they even contain acidic pockets. The moss Campylopus gracilis serve as an example of a species that is tolerant to both acidic and basic conditions, and the range of their growth could vary from 4.9 towards the acidic side and 7.8 towards the basic side. Mosses are also very good indicators of pH of the substratum. Some bryophytes grow only on the soil that is at a particular pH. So, the presence of a particular species indicates the soil whether it is acidic or alkaline in condition. Mosses also grow on hematite, that is a type of iron ore, which are having alkaline pH, the pH at the range of 7.3 and 7.6. It is a well-known fact that in an alkaline medium, iron remains unavailable to most of the plants, but these mosses can absorb and can thrive even on such low amount of iron. Mosses are also used as pollution indicators. Bryophytes are sensitive to various primary and secondary pollutants such as gases, heavy metals, radionuclides, acid rains, etc. There are many pollution studies which have been taken with the help of mosses and bryophyte species. They have made a major role in monitoring the changes in the Earth's atmosphere. In Japan, a bag of mosses have been prepared, also called as a bryometer. It is a bag of mosses that respond in predictable ways to various levels of air pollution. It has been developed in Japan for so long. By exposing a variety of mosses to various levels of sulfur dioxide, it was found that most species were injured by 10 to 40 hours of exposure at 0.8 parts per million SO2 or at 0.4 ppm after 20 to 80 hours. These sensitivity levels of mosses towards SO2 can be used to find out the SO2 concentration in our atmosphere, and they have been successfully applied as moss bags or hanging moss baskets, and these are used as indicators of SO2 pollution. Use of biometer has spread around the world, and it has been specially of more use in Europe, where they are also known as moss bags. In Finland, Hylocomium splendens moss bags are used to monitor heavy metals around a coal-fired plants. So here also the basic principle remains same. The species Hylocomium splendens is very sensitive to many heavy metals. So when there is any availability of such heavy metals, you can use these moss species as their indicators. Appreciation of mosses as reliable indicators has grown recently. The presence of sulfur dioxide could limit distribution, reproductive success, and capsule formation in mosses. By studying the shrinking distribution or rate of reproductive success or the amount of capsule formation in a moss, we can have a fairly good idea of the SO2 present in the surrounding atmosphere. In England, Grimmia pulvinata has been successfully used as an SO2 indicator. As monitoring studies continued, researchers developed a list of tolerant and sensitive species that could be used as indicators. Mosses like Phaneria hygrometrica, Bryum argenteum, and Cerotodon purpureus show high tolerance to SO2 pollution. Neckera crispus is one such moss which indicates high pH under acidic rain conditions. In Tokyo, epiphytic species of mosses and liverworts have been used to assess pollution impacts. These natural assemblages have been more quite popular as a means of assessing pollution in Europe. Bryophytes have become favorite organisms for biomonitoring, determining levels and identifying sources of heavy metals in soil, atmospheric and aquatic pollution. There are two approaches which are employed for using bryophytes as biomonitors. One is analysis of indigenous bryophytes, and the other one is analysis of transplanted bryophytes. Mosses are also biomonitors of soil pollution. Several attempts have been made by geologists to use bryophyte for mineral prospecting. Bryophytes could solve three difficulties that are often associated with sample analysis of stream sediments, that is, shortage of sediments, shortage of wet sieving, and shortage of time for adequate sampling of areas with difficult access. By using bryophytes as mineral concentrators, samples from numerous small streams in an area could be pooled to provide sufficient material for analysis. Let us talk about few such examples. Copper moss such as Melicopharea elongata, Melicopharea melicoferae, and Scopelophila grow almost exclusively in areas high in copper, particularly copper sulfate. Recently, some of the bryophytes such as bryum, Phaneria, and copper mosses have been employed as model systems for studying the potential and evolution of heavy metal tolerance with an ecological and experimental approach. Some bryophytes serve as indicator for a particular mineral enriched substrate. For example, gremiales are constant evaders and perfect colonizers of mica and hard granites of Himalayas. Markensia palmata along with Barbula arculata can tolerate high concentration of copper as high as 0.39% to 0.64% in substrate with a basic pH of 7.4 to 7.5. Liverwort Jungermannia volcanicola and Mosses sphagnum and Polytrichum are indicators of iron-rich substrate. Not only this, some bryophytes serve as indicators of the chemical nature of underlying substrates also. For example, Jungermannia confettissima is a calicole species that grows on acidic parts, while Hymenostylum recurvirostrum survives on basic calcareous pockets of Himalayan region. Tortella tortuosa accumulates high concentration of calcium from their underlying calcium enriched substrates. Mosses are also used in biomonitoring of air pollution. Bryophytes are well suited as bioindicators and biomonitors of heavy metals in air because they lack distinct cuticle and epidermis. Moreover, leaves are thin and one cell thick. These characters help them to absorb nutrients and pollutants directly from the atmosphere. Since they lack a distinct cuticle and epidermis, any direct absorption of nutrients and pollutants from the atmosphere very quickly show their effect in the growth of the moss genera. And by observing the growth pattern of these mosses, we can have a good estimate of the condition of air in terms of pollution. The ability to sequester heavy metals while remaining unharmed makes them a good biomonitors. They have the ability to absorb heavy metal ions on their surfaces. For example, the species Markensia polymorpha can accumulate good amount of lead, and Campyris delicerti is a good monitor for aerial lead and to less extent copper also. So they can absorb these heavy metals on their surfaces. Orthotrichum optocifolium is sensitive to hydrogen fluoride whereas Polytrichum commune, Polytrichum strictum and Rhacometrium are tolerant to fluoride fumes. Mosses are very frequently used as biomonitors of water pollution. An important advantage of the bryophyte is their ability to integrate pollution over time and keep a record that cannot be obtained through testing of water, as their contaminant content is more consistent than that of the water sediments. Sphagnum is a reliable indicator of acid conditions. Ceratodon purpureus suggests good drainage and high amount of nitrogen. The presence of Pogonitum alpinum and Pogonitum arnigerum indicate less nitrogen in Iceland. Phaneria hygrometrica, Leptobryum pyriforme and Pollia cruda show good base saturation, whereas Psilopilum levigatum signals poor base saturation. Mosses can also be used as an indicator of radiation and radionuclides. For example, Bryum argentium is used to monitor the thickness of the ozone layer over Antarctica. As the ozone layer decreases, increased exposure to ultraviolet B radiation stimulates production of flavonoids in these species. When we talk of ecological importance of bryophytes, some bryophytes dominated ecosystems such as boreal peatlands have received special attention in the context of global climate change and carbon budget. The dead plant matter, particularly decomposed by water in the bog and slowly compressed and carbonized under pressure of the overlying deposits and water, is called the peat. It is brown and dark colored spongy substance. Sphagnum and other mosses are the chief constituents of the peat. Besides these, the peat contains remains of other plants growing in the bog, such as the reeds, sedges, grasses, ferns and shrubs. Some peats consist mainly of the remains of sphagnum. For this reason, this moss is often called as peat moss. The bog plants grow luxuriantly and in this stands. Their basal older portion die while the young parts keep growing apically. Thus, large amounts of dead matter accumulate each year, gradually filling the pond or lake. These deposits get compressed and hardened by the weight of fresh deposits from above and in the course of time attain considerable thickness. So, sphagnum, because of its various properties, affect its surrounding ecology very much. We shall discuss the ecological impact of sphagnum in a much greater detail in our lectures to come. Thank you so much.